Already removes safety restrictions from some open source AI models to create deepfake pornography. Aviv Ovadia at the AI and Democracy Foundation says he worries about future catastrophic outcomes, like bad actors figuring out how to use open source AI to build a biological weapon.
It's much easier to improve and learn about AI systems if they're open and available, but it's also much easier to weaponize them, and there's no undo once they're out in the world.
Ovadia says thinking about AI as completely open source or completely black boxed is kind of a false binary. Different levels of openness can apply to different types of AI. I'm Matt Levin for Marketplace.
This next story is brought to you by two competing rules of thumb, cause and effect, and supply and demand, prefaced by this statement of fact. The United States is producing more natural gas right now than it ever has. So, on with it. Number one, last winter was the warmest on record in the lower 48. That is the cause of which I spoke. The effect is that we've got plenty of natural gas left over this spring because we didn't use it to heat our homes and instead just pumped it into storage tanks. Number two, while electricity demand is up this summer, it's really hot. Air conditioners use a lot of power, right? Natural gas supplies are still outweighing demand for nat gas, keeping prices low. Marketplace's Henry Epp, then, has more on where the natural gas market stands just a couple of months before furnace season.
Here's the problem for natural gas producers who are trying to figure out how much gas the market wants.
If you drill a well today, you're not going to see the gas associated with that well for another 6 to 9 months.
Samantha Dart is the head of global natural gas research at Goldman Sachs. When demand and prices for natural gas spike, it takes a while for production to actually ramp up. And when prices start to fall and companies want to hold back supply,
that's all well and good, but I'm not going to see an actual decline in production for at least 6 to 9 months.
So when last year's warm winter held back demand, companies couldn't just turn off the switch.
You just have, a lot of natural gas molecules being produced, chasing really not a lot of demand.
Ryan Kellogg is a professor at the University of Chicago's Harris School of Public Policy. To be clear, there is growing demand for electricity in the U.S. right now, he says. But even with some of the natural gas surplus being used to generate power, there's still a lot left over.
Barring something really unexpected happening, we should expect natural gas prices in America to stay fairly low to moderate, at least for the foreseeable future, as in the next year or two.
That's good news for consumers who need to heat their homes in the winter, not so good for natural gas companies. But don't feel too bad for the industry, says Anna Mikulska at the Institute for Defense Analysis.
The ability of current U.S. industry to survive these prices is very different what it was 5 or 10 years ago.
Thanks to technology improvements and industry consolidation, she says, gas companies can still make money even when prices are low. I'm Henry Epp for Marketplace.
If you need an early update on prices and markets and all the rest of the day's business and economic news, you know what to do, right? Get out of bed, listen to the Marketplace Morning Report. David Brancaccio and the gang giving it to you before you know you need it. Coming up.
And I didn't feel uncomfortable returning to this school being 20 years older than typical college students.
Age is just a number, people. But first, let's do the numbers. Dow Industrial's off 61 points today, 0.2%, finished at 40,834. The Nasdaq down 59 points, about 1/3 of 1%, closed at 17,816. The S&P 500 gave back 11 points, 0.2%, 55 and 97. We heard from Kaylee Wells that the median salary of a home buyer is at a record high of $96,000 in this economy. How about some residential real estate stocks then, huh? Realogy Holdings, which owns Coldwell Banker and Corcoran, grew 1%. Compass down 2.5%. Mortgage lender Rocket Companies up 0.6% today. Heard from Henry Epp about the current natural gas glut in this country. In related stocks, Kinder Morgan ebbed 1.5%. Coterra Energy slid about 1.8%. Tellurian picked up 2% today. Boeing's had a new setback for its embattled 777X jetliner test flights revealed cracks in the plane's structure. That is never good. Boeing dipped 4.2% today. Bonds went up, yield on the 10-year T-note down 3.81%. You're listening to Marketplace.
The Numbers is supported by Odoo.com, your entire business on one platform. Marketplace is supported by USB Technology, reminding consumers worldwide that USB-enabled products with the certified USB logos are designed for performance, power, reliability, and interoperability. Learn more at CertifiedUSB.com. And by the Peter G. Peterson Foundation, a nonpartisan organization dedicated to raising awareness and accelerating action on America's fiscal challenges to build a brighter economic future for the next generation. Learn more at pgpf.org. And by Amazon Business, aiming to help save time by offering smart business buying solutions so there's more time to focus on growing the business and less time doing the admin. More at amazonbusiness.com.
WNYC supporters include Michaelman & Robinson, LLP, a full-service national law firm dedicated to its representation of clients across industries. More information at mrllp.com.
WNYC is independent public media, here to serve you and our entire community. We're listener-supported and proud of it. Financial contributions from listeners like you make our work possible. When you give to WNYC, you're helping to fund the news you count on and the conversations yet to come. Please, become a member now. Visit WNYC.org and click on Donate.
You're listening to Marketplace on WNYC. In the 7 o'clock hour of All Things Considered, we'll meet an elite Ukrainian military unit that offers civilians a one-week tryout to live and train like soldiers. We'll have that and much more at 7 o'clock. Stay tuned.
This is Marketplace. I'm Kai Ryssdal. We turn now to the tax code, which, while maybe not a top-tier issue in this election, quite possibly ought to be, because if the Congress that's elected this fall doesn't make some changes to the tax code at some point next year, Americans' taxes are going to be quite a bit higher come 2026. What's going on is that a whole slew of provisions in the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, the Trump's tax cuts, right? They expire at the end of next year, including what is known as the pass-through deduction. And as Marketplace's Kimberly Adams reports, whether or not it survives could make a big difference for millions of business owners.
Most businesses in the U.S. are pass-through businesses.
Businesses that are organized as sole proprietorships, partnerships, or S corporations.
Neil Bradley is Executive Vice President and Chief Policy Officer at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. For these businesses, rather than the owners taking a straight salary and paying income taxes on that, they instead take a share of the business's profit as their own. Prior to 2017, owners had to pay regular income taxes on that money. But now they get a 20% deduction on some of that income.
So think about small companies, small businesses on main streets all across America.
The Chamber is strongly advocating for an extension of the tax deduction on pass-through income. Bradley says companies that have used it,
they employ about 50% of the entire private sector for-profit workforce.
The pass-through deduction exists because when Congress was trying to cut tax rates for businesses in 2017, it ran into a problem. It was easy enough to just slash the overall rate for big corporations, known as C corporations, which Congress did from 35% to 21%. But what do you do with the profits these smaller companies generate? Garrett Watson is a senior policy analyst at the Tax Foundation.
The main goal of the deduction when it was created in the end of 2017 was to ensure that the tax burden faced by pass-through businesses overall was in the ballpark of the big C corporations.
The pass-through deduction effectively allows certain business owners to exclude up to 20% of their income that passes through their business from federal income tax, up to a certain point. Chai-Cheng Huang, executive director of NYU's Tax Law Center, says the law is really complex.
The simplified IRS flowchart of this thing is 14 steps long, and the pamphlet that Congress's official researchers wrote for lawmakers trying to summarize how it works is 15 pages.
Business owners who take the pass-through deduction end up with a top federal tax rate of just under 30%, while their employees who get paychecks are taxed at up to 37%. Huang says that's encouraged some owners to game the system.
Many high-income filers stop paying themselves income as a type of profit that is not eligible for the deduction and instead paid themselves in a form that is eligible for the deduction.
Tax policy experts are quick to point out the benefits of the deduction are not distributed equally.
Over half of the benefit goes to business owners who have more than $1 million of income.
Samantha Jacoby is Deputy Director of Federal Tax Policy at the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities.
People with over $10 million in income who claimed the deduction claimed a $1 million deduction, and that's compared to an average deduction of $7,000. So very wealthy people are just benefiting much more than sort of ordinary people.
Plus, the overall cost of the deduction, it was originally projected to deliver upwards of a $400 billion hit to federal revenues. If it's extended another 10 years, says Garrett Watson at the Tax Foundation, that's another $700 billion.
And while I don't think there's any firm conclusion, there's not a lot of strong evidence that the deduction spurred an above normal amount of investment or economic activity that would have been surprising to folks.
And as we get closer to the provision's expiration date at the end of 2025, Congress will have to decide if keeping the deduction is worth it. In Washington, I'm Kimberly Adams for Marketplace.
After taking a big hit during the pandemic, college enrollment is bouncing back. According to the National Student Clearinghouse Data Center, enrollment was up 2.5% last spring. Community colleges led the way, making it more than half of that total overall bump. And the students who are returning to those classrooms today are less interested in earning a bachelor's degree. They're coming more for vocational training and high-tech skills. From WBUR in Boston, Carrie Young reports.
In order to go inside the clean room lab at Middlesex Community College, students and staff, like laboratory technician Veronica Tay, have to pass through a number of safety procedures. Walking over a sticky floor pad is first.
Just helps pick up the dirt off your shoes.
After a thorough hand washing, students put on a long lab coat, a face mask, and safety glasses.
Because you'll end up putting like little booties on, and then we'll cross over the red line as you like put one on.
Tay explains this lab is used by the college's biotechnology students. It's intended to simulate working conditions in this region's pharmaceutical industry. Students even work with live cells.
So we've got CHO, which stands for Chinese hamster ovarian cancer cells. We grow them at 37 degrees Celsius.
The lab work is part of a certificate and associate's degree program in biotechnology at this community college. New graduates often find jobs nearby, with starting salaries of over $55,000 a year. This biotech program has been around for more than 30 years, but officials decided to invest even more into the major when they started planning to build this clean room about 10 years ago. That was around when Massachusetts community colleges were starting to move away from their traditional role of being a stepping stone to a four-year degree. Today, they're more of a training ground for high-tech and vocational jobs in the region.
They are playing an increasing role in linking people directly into employment opportunities, particularly in that modern technician space.
Bob LePage is the Massachusetts Assistant Secretary for Career Education. He says the biggest growth area right now is in new environmentally friendly HVAC technologies, like heat pump installation. Cybersecurity is in demand too.
It's become more visible in part because of market demand, in part because individuals are thirsting for upward mobility.
And recently, the growth in free community college in the area has turbocharged this trend. Maine's free program launched about 2.5 years ago. David Dagler, the president of the Maine Community College System, says a lot of the students enrolling now are interested in vocational programs.
They're looking to become plumbers and electricians. They're looking to become fabricators and precision manufacturers.
In addition to growing the supply of workers with special skills, community college graduates also tend to come from a diverse range of age and cultural backgrounds. Alex Colburn, a director of training at Eversource, says that's benefited the utility company's workforce.
They have a reach into the communities that extends beyond what we can do. How they market to different types of communities extends for us as well.
For Megan Guros, a recent graduate of the Middlesex Community College Biotech program, student diversity was precisely what drew her into the school when she decided to go back to class in her late 30s.
There's all ages, all backgrounds, all ethnicities. And I didn't feel uncomfortable returning to this school being 20 years older than typical college students. And I feel like that really makes the experience stronger.
And she adds, it helps that her degree led to a well-paying job at a pharmaceutical company without having to take on tens of thousands of dollars in student loans. In Lowell, Massachusetts, I'm Carrie Young for Marketplace.
Marketplace is supported by GitLab. More than 50% of the Fortune 100 rely on GitLab to develop, secure, and deploy software faster. More at GitLab.com.
This final note on the way out today, saw this on CNBC, that the soon-to-be new Starbucks CEO Brian Niccol has done it again, negotiated quite the deal from his new employer. Niccol is going to be able to keep on living in Newport Beach, California, and commute 3 days a week up to Seattle on the company jet. The last time Niccol changed jobs to move from Taco Bell to Chipotle, Niccol convinced Chipotle to move its headquarters from Denver to Southern California. Not bad, right? Our digital and on-demand team includes Carrie Barber, Jordan Manji, Dylan Mietinen, Janet Wynn, Olga Oxman, Ellen Rolfes, Virginia K. Smith, and Tony Wagner. Francesca Levy is the executive director of Digital and On Demand. And I'm Kai Risdall. We will see you tomorrow, everybody. This is APM.
Support for WNYC comes from MTV presenting RuPaul's Drag Race. The reality competition program documents RuPaul in the search for America's next drag superstar. Emmy Awards eligible. Now streaming on Paramount Plus.
Yes, hello, yes. You're listening to WNYC. All Things Considered is coming your way next. At 8 o'clock tonight, it is On Point on both 93.9 FM and AM 820. And then at 9 o'clock, a reminder that each night of the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, WNYC will bring you NPR's live special coverage of those primetime speeches with analysis. Tonight's speakers include former First Lady Michelle Obama, former President Barack Obama, and Second Gentleman Doug Emhoff. That's at 9 o'clock tonight on WNYC. You can also live stream it by going to WNYC.org. It's going to be another beautiful evening in our area. Temperatures in the upper 50s tomorrow. Should be sunny through the day, highs in the low 70s, lows again in the upper 50s tomorrow night. It's WNYC, Tuesday, 7 o'clock.
This is WNYC FM, HD, and AM, New York.